Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Damien. When a woman you've trusted for 15 years can't immediately say no when you ask her if she's cheating, the look in her eyes and the angry way she reacts tell you the truth before anyone else does. Even before the private investigator I hired confirmed it, I already knew something was terribly wrong. Catherine and I had been married for 15 years. One afternoon, I decided to surprise her at work to celebrate her new promotion to CEO. I thought it would be a sweet moment. Instead, the security guard at her office actually laughed when I said I was her husband. The chain of events that happened after that moment changed our lives forever. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to tap the like button and leave a comment on where you're watching from. Let's know ourselves. Now back to the story. Catherine and I met back when we were both living in Chicago, both just getting our careers off the ground. I worked as an insurance claims analyst, which was a stable job with decent pay. After we met through mutual friends at a dinner party, we connected quickly. When we started dating, it felt like we were meant for each other. After a year of dating, we moved in together. 2 years after that, we got engaged. Our wedding was beautiful with family and friends. Catherine was already working at a pharmaceutical company when we first met. She had been there for about 3 years, and everyone could tell she was going places. She kept getting promoted, taking on bigger projects, and gaining more responsibilities. Her career meant a lot to her, and she worked hard every day to move forward. I supported her dreams completely. I was honestly proud of everything she achieved. Whenever she had a chance to take on a new role, even if it meant longer work hours or traveling for days at a time, I encouraged her. I believed that partners should cheer each other on and help each other grow. During the 15 years we were married, Catherine built an impressive career. She went from operations manager to director, then to vice president, and eventually to senior vice president. Each new title brought more pressure, longer hours, higher expectations, but also a much bigger paycheck. Meanwhile, I stayed in my steady job at the insurance company. I didn't rise as fast as Catherine, nor did I want to. I was happy with a stable position that paid well enough and didn't take over my entire life. I liked having time to relax, breathe, and not think about work around the clock. On the outside, our marriage seemed normal. We talked about our days, shared meals, and kept a peaceful routine. Our intimacy became less frequent over the years, but nothing dramatic ever happened. No screaming fights. No big problems. Just a quiet, long-term marriage that slowly settled into habit. I trusted Catherine completely. She had never given me a reason to doubt her or question her loyalty. The only distance I ever noticed came from her long hours, but that felt normal considering how demanding her job was. Catherine kept a strong wall between her work and her home life. I almost never visited her office, and I didn't really know her coworkers except for a few names she mentioned now and then. Over the years, I met some of her early coworkers at holiday parties or special company celebrations. But as she climbed higher and higher in the company, her circle changed. Her world became more connected to her career, and I slowly became less involved in that part of her life. She always went to work events alone, saying they were boring and that I wouldn't enjoy them anyway. A few months before our 18th anniversary, Catherine was promoted to CEO. It was the result of 18 long years of hard work at the same company. Becoming CEO had always been her biggest dream, and reaching it was a huge accomplishment. I was honestly very proud of her. We celebrated the night she got the news. We went out for a nice dinner, and I told her how impressed I was. I told her how lucky I felt to be married to someone so innovative, dedicated, and successful. But the new job came with a price, longer hours, constant work trips, and a lot more stress. She became even more focused on her career than before. I understood, though. This was what she'd been chasing for years, and I wanted to support her. One afternoon, about 3 months after her promotion, I finished my own work earlier than expected. A project wrapped up early, so I suddenly had a free afternoon. On a random impulse, I decided to surprise Catherine at her new office. I thought I could see how she's fitting into her role, and maybe we could grab an early dinner. I drove to her company's headquarters downtown. The building was huge, glass and steel everywhere, modern and intimidating. I could count on one hand the number of times I had been there. At around 3:30 p.m., I walked into the lobby and approached the security desk. The guard, a middle-aged man, looked up as I came near. Smiling, I told him I was there to see my wife, Catherine. The guard actually laughed like he didn't believe me. He said, "Yeah, right. Nice try. Only authorized people can go past this point." I was confused and told him again, showing him my driver's license with my name, the same last name as Catherine. He looked at the ID, raised an eyebrow, and then gave me this weird look, like he felt sorry for me. Then he said in a flat voice, "I see your husband every day, buddy. And you're not him." Before I could make sense of what he meant, the private elevator for the executives opened. A man stepped out. He looked to be in his late 30s, well-dressed, wearing an expensive suit. The guard pointed right at him and said, "That's her husband." The guard pointed and didn't even look in our direction. He just walked straight toward the exit. I stood there frozen. My brain couldn't process what I had just heard or seen. The guard suddenly looked uncomfortable, like he realized he might have told me something I wasn't supposed to know. I forced a smile and tried to joke it off. "Maybe you're confusing him with a business partner or someone." The guard didn't argue, but the look on his face said he didn't believe that at all. I walked out of the building quickly. I didn't want to break down in front of a security guard or demand to see Catherine by making a scene. When I reached my car, I just sat there in the parking garage, trying to think. I tried calling Catherine, but it went straight to voicemail. She was probably in a meeting, but it still made me restless. I felt embarrassed and unwanted. The guard was so sure. The way he pointed at that other man and called him her husband. Staff only believe someone is a spouse if something seems personal, familiar. Driving home felt like moving through a loop. My mind kept replaying the whole scene. The meaning behind what I had seen was clear and terrible. But I tried to push those thoughts away. I tried to convince myself there had to be another explanation, even though deep down my stomach told me the truth. I debated whether to tell Catherine what happened, whether to ask her directly, whether I should confront her or quietly find out the truth myself. I watched her closely the whole time, trying to see any signs of guilt or dishonesty, anything that might hint she was hiding something. But there was nothing obvious. She acted completely normal, which meant either nothing was wrong, or she was very good at keeping her feelings locked away. We sat down to eat. I had made pasta. As she quietly picked at her food, my thoughts kept racing. I couldn't stop thinking about what the security guard told me earlier and the man he pointed out. The pressure inside me got too strong. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "Are you cheating on me?" Catherine's had jerked up so fast. Her face showed shock, then anger. "What? What kind of question is that?" she snapped. She sounded like she was offended. I was like she was more insulted than worried about the accusation. I tried to explain. "I went to your office today to surprise you. The security guard said he sees your husband every day." Then he pointed at another man. Catherine's expression shifted quickly. "That's ridiculous," she said sharply. "He must have been confused. Some of my coworkers are around the office a lot. Maybe he assumed." I cut her off. He wasn't guessing. He was very sure. Catherine suddenly pushed her chair back and stood up. Her voice rose. "So you're accusing me because of something a security guard thinks he saw?" And that's when I noticed something important. She still hadn't said, "No, I'm not cheating." She didn't deny anything, not directly. She just got angry and turned the whole thing into an attack on my trust. She walked away from the table without another word and went into the bedroom. The door closed hard behind her. Later that night, I apologized through the closed bedroom door. I said I shouldn't have accused her without knowing more. I said I was sorry for hurting her feelings. Catherine eventually opened the door. She said she forgave me, but her voice was cold. She told me I had disappointed her, that she couldn't believe I'd think so little of her. But even after saying the words, the warmth between us didn't come back. It felt like she was only pretending to accept the apology. And between the security guard's certainty and Catherine's refusal to deny anything, a seed of doubt had settled firmly in my mind. I knew I had to find the truth. The next day, during my lunch break, I searched online for private investigators. I read reviews, looked at their websites, and compared different firms. I finally found one with many good reviews and seemed experienced with cheating-related cases. So I called them right away and booked a meeting. That same evening, after work, I met with the private investigator in his office. I explained everything and why I suspected she might be hiding something from me. He told me he could follow Catherine, watch her daily movements, and find out if she was having an affair. He warned me that it would take several weeks to gather solid, undeniable proof. I agreed to hire him. It was expensive, much more than I expected, but at that point, I needed real answers. I couldn't keep living in fear, guessing, and wondering. At home, I began watching Catherine more closely. I started noticing things I had ignored before. She was attached to her phone, taking it with her everywhere, even if she was going to the bathroom or another room for a few minutes. One night, when she left her phone unattended on the table, I tried to check it. But when I tapped the screen, I discovered she had changed her password. The old code I knew didn't work anymore. I couldn't get in. That small change hit me hard. It felt planned. People don't suddenly lock their phones unless they're trying to hide something. I acted normally on the outside and pretended the earlier argument was behind us. But inside, something in me had pulled back. I felt cold, distant, and almost numb, just waiting for whatever the private investigator would eventually find. For the next 3 months, the investigator worked quietly in the background. He followed Catherine on workdays, watched her business trips, and collected every bit of information he could. During that time, he discovered the man she was seeing, her company's vice president of strategic planning, someone who reported directly to her. He showed me video clips of them leaving the office together, getting into the same car, eating at restaurants, and staying late when most people had already gone home. The investigator also found hotel records from Catherine's business trips. Many of those reservations showed she had checked into the same suite as that man. Not separate rooms, one shared suite. The evidence was clear. The investigator even spoke to some of the office staff, keeping his identity hidden. What he learned shocked me. Many of Catherine's coworkers thought the man she was with, the elevator guy, as I called him, was her husband. They saw them together constantly, acting comfortable and familiar, like a real couple. None of them had ever met me. Most didn't even know Catherine was married. To them, her relationship with the other man was an open secret, something everyone quietly knew about but never said out loud. The worst part was discovering the affair had been going on for years. It had started as a professional relationship and gradually turned into something personal, something intimate. After 3 long months, the investigator finally met with me to hand over the complete report. He went through everything carefully. There were photos of Catherine and the other man together. There were videos of them leaving work side by side almost every day, as if it were part of their regular routine. There were travel records proving that multiple work trips she told me about were actually romantic vacations with him. Everything was documented. The woman I had trusted completely had been living a double life. The moment I saw the whole truth, I felt anger, heartbreak, humiliation, everything hitting me at once. I felt rage at her betrayal, grief for the marriage I thought we shared, and deep embarrassment knowing that almost everyone at her office had known the truth. That night, I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't keep acting like everything was fine when I knew the truth sitting right in front of me. I waited for Catherine to come home. She arrived around 7:30. Her keys dropped lightly into the bowl by the door, and she walked into the living room without noticing what was on the table at first. I was sitting there, stiff and silent, with the report from the private investigator opened in front of me, where she would immediately see them. When Catherine walked in and looked at my face, she noticed that something was wrong. Then her eyes slowly moved to the papers and the photos. When she stepped closer to have a better view, the shock was obvious. She didn't even try to hide it. She knew instantly that she'd been caught. "Sit down," I said. My voice was calm but firm. "We need to talk." She sat down without saying a single word. I spoke clearly, almost like I was reading from a script I had practiced. The security guard wasn't confused. Your affair partner is the vice president of strategic planning. The same man everyone at your office thinks is your husband because you've been openly affectionate with him for years. I showed her picture after picture. Screenshots from videos, hotel bookings, copies of messages, everything the investigator had gathered. For the first time in our marriage, Catherine was utterly speechless. She couldn't use her usual anger or excuses to defend herself. The evidence was too strong and too honest. I continued, "The night I asked if you were cheating on me, you didn't say no. You just got angry. That told me everything. So I hired an investigator. And this is what he found." I went through the entire report with her. Finally, Catherine whispered, "Damien, I don't know what to say." I cut her off immediately. I don't want excuses. I don't want apologies. What I want is a divorce. And I want you to cooperate. Her eyes widened with fear. I then laid everything out clearly. "I know everything, Catherine. And I have all of this evidence. If you refuse to cooperate with a clean and quiet divorce, I will make all of this public. You had an affair with a subordinate. You were careless enough that your entire office knew about it. Do you understand what a scandal like that would do to your reputation? To your job as CEO?" She understood. The look on her face said it all. This wasn't just about me anymore. It threatened everything she had built over 18 years. CEOs having affairs with people below them in the company? Boards hated that. It meant power imbalance issues, possible harassment claims, a company-wide scandal. She would almost definitely lose her position. Catherine finally asked in a small voice, "What do you want?" I answered without hesitation, "I want a private divorce settlement that benefits me. 15 years of marriage were wasted because you were dishonest. I want a clean separation. You agree to everything, or I take the evidence to your board and let them decide your future." She looked down, finally accepting the truth. She knew she had no other choice. The evidence was undeniable. The danger to her career was real. So she agreed to cooperate. I talked to a divorce lawyer right after confronting Catherine, and I hired her that same day. The lawyer drafted divorce terms that benefited me greatly. Because Catherine earned much more than I did, and because the divorce was clearly her fault, the agreement required her to pay a large financial settlement. I would also get to keep the house we bought together. Almost all our shared property would go to me, and the split would be clean and straightforward. Catherine hired her own lawyer immediately after our confrontation. Her lawyer tried to argue against some parts of the agreement, but he knew I had the stronger position. He understood that if Catherine tried to fight me in court, things would get much worse for her. A public case would mean all the evidence of her affair would become part of the official record. Everyone would know she had a relationship with a person who worked under her. Her company's board could investigate. She would almost definitely lose her CEO job, and her reputation would be ruined forever. In the end, Catherine signed the agreement because she had no choice. Fighting back would destroy her career. The private settlement protected her professional life, but it cost her a lot of money and most of the things we owned together. We didn't have kids, which made the legal process much easier. There were no arguments about custody or child support, just dividing property and agreeing on the final terms. The divorce was finalized in 6 months. It went quickly because Catherine didn't contest anything. She followed all the steps, signed every document her lawyer handed her, and didn't create problems. When the split was official, she moved into an apartment across town. She only took her personal belongings and the few items the settlement allowed her to keep. During the entire divorce process, we barely spoke. Nearly all communication was done through our lawyers. The few times we did have to sit in the same room were cold, distant, and strictly professional. I felt emotionally exhausted, but relieved that the marriage was officially over. I'd gotten significant financial compensation for 15 years of deception. I could close this chapter and move forward. There were many lessons I learned from what happened to me. Some of them were painful, but they opened my eyes. I learned that affairs can sometimes be open secrets, things everyone knows about except the person being cheated on. Catherine's whole office seemed to think her affair partner was her husband because of how close they acted in public. In their professional world, I didn't even exist. Meanwhile, I stayed at home, clueless. I learned that when someone refuses to say no to a simple question, that is an answer. When I asked Catherine if she was cheating, she didn't deny it. Instead, she got angry and defensive. Now I know that guilty people often act that way to distract you from what they're really doing. I learned that having proof matters in a divorce. Because I collected solid evidence, I had power during the negotiations. Catherine cared more about protecting her CEO image than fighting the settlement, so she agreed to terms she would never have accepted under normal circumstances. But the biggest lesson was this: once trust is destroyed, it cannot be rebuilt. Catherine had a year-long affair, and she didn't even hide it at work. There was no relationship left to save after that. You might think I was being vengeful by using the evidence to get a better settlement. You might call it blackmail instead of negotiation. But I don't see it that way. I had every right to protect myself. She lied to me for years while her career kept growing. The settlement brought balance to a situation where I had been deeply wronged. I'm at peace with how things turned out. Staying with Catherine after discovering the truth was never an option. And the settlement was fair, especially since she earned much more than I did and was responsible for ending the marriage. Sometimes I hear news about Catherine through mutual friends. She's still a CEO, as far as I know. Her affair ended around the time our divorce was finalized. I don't know if she discontinued it or if her affair partner left once things got complicated. The whole process was emotionally crushing. I had to face the fact that our 15-year marriage wasn't what I believed it was. I had to take apart the life we built together and divide everything we shared. I deserved loyalty. I deserved honesty. I deserved a partner who included me in every part of her life, not someone who kept me in a box while creating a whole separate world with someone else. Thank you for watching.